Well, what we're going to do here this afternoon, I have three critters, as I like to call them, to show you and walk through some of their amazing adaptations. And all we're doing here is to help you to see with these three unique creatures that God has indeed designed some pretty amazing things that evolution doesn't have a chance to try to explain. And the first one here is the common woodpecker. I gave this presentation at the Discovery Institute's Dallas conference almost a year ago, and got quite a bit of attention. And the first thing I'm going to show you here is a video that comes from a Muslim site. So there's a few Arabic words to start with, then just never mind all that. But everything he talks about is really great stuff.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, nature lovers. Today, I'm diving into the fascinating world of one of nature's coolest percussionists. Meet the woodpecker, one of nature's most skilled and fascinating birds, known for its distinctive pecking sound. This bird is not only a master carpenter but also a key player in maintaining the health of our forests. Woodpeckers can peck up to 20 times per second into the wood without damaging themselves or getting a headache. Their anatomy is specialized for their unique behaviors such as pecking, climbing, and foraging. Here's an overview of the key aspects of their anatomy. 1. Beak. The woodpecker's beak is strong, straight, and sharp, resembling a chisel. This allows the bird to drill into hardwood with precision. Unlike most bird beaks, a woodpecker's beak doesn't wear out easily due to its layered construction of tough keratin on the outside and softer tissues beneath. The upper part of the beak is slightly longer than the lower part, which helps them dig into wood more efficiently. 2. Skull. Woodpeckers have thick skulls with spongy bone structures and specialized muscles that cushion the brain from the force of repeated pecking. Their brain is surrounded by a shock-absorbing fluid that helps dissipate the impact. The woodpecker's brain is relatively small, and it is positioned in a way that minimizes rotational forces, which prevents concussions or brain damage. 3. Tongue. A woodpecker's tongue can extend up to 3 times the length of its beak, which is important for reaching deep into tree bark to extract insects. For example, some species have tongues that can extend up to 4 inches. The tongue is either barbed or coated with sticky saliva, depending on the species, allowing the bird to catch and extract insects from narrow crevices. The woodpecker's tongue is anchored at the back of its skull and wraps around its head before exiting the mouth, providing the necessary length for probing deep into the wood. 4. Zygodactyl feet. 2 toes forward, 2 toes backward. This arrangement, called zygodactyl feet, gives woodpeckers a strong grip on tree bark and other vertical surfaces. This is different from many other bird species, which typically have 3 toes forward and 1 backward. Grip. The toes have sharp claws that dig into the bark, allowing the bird to stay upright and stable while pecking or climbing. 5. Tail. The woodpecker's tail feathers are stiff and pointed. They serve as a prop or brace against tree trunks, helping the bird maintain balance while drilling into wood. The central tail feathers are the most rigid and are constantly reinforced by wear and regrowth. The tail, in combination with the feet, provides a 3-point support system that allows woodpeckers to climb up and down tree trunks efficiently. 6. Neck muscles. The woodpecker's neck muscles are incredibly strong, allowing the bird to peck with great force. These muscles control the head's movement, allowing for quick, repetitive pecking while maintaining precise control. Some species can peck up to 20 times per second, meaning these muscles must also have great endurance to sustain such rapid movement. 7. Eyes and nictitating membrane. Woodpeckers have a protective, translucent third eyelid called the nictitating membrane. This membrane covers the eyes during pecking to protect them from debris and dust. It also helps prevent the eyes from popping out of the socket during forceful strikes. Their vision is adapted to focus on close-range objects, making it easier for them to target and locate prey inside tree bark. 8. Brain. The woodpecker's brain is tightly packed within the skull, which helps reduce movement during pecking. Its relatively small size means less mass, reducing the likelihood of injury due to impact. The orientation of the brain within the skull reduces rotational forces, which are the most dangerous during rapid head movements. 9. Hyoid apparatus. The hyoid apparatus is a complex structure of bones and muscles that supports the woodpecker's extraordinarily long tongue. This apparatus extends around the skull and acts like a sling, allowing the tongue to extend far beyond the beak when probing into holes. 10. Drumming behavior. While not strictly anatomical, woodpeckers use their anatomy, especially their beak and skull, for drumming. This behavior is a form of communication, used to mark territory, attract mates, or signal danger. Unlike singing birds, woodpeckers drum on resonant surfaces like dead trees, metal, or even house siding to create loud, rhythmic sounds. Why do woodpeckers peck? Mostly they're foraging for food. Their diet primarily consists of insects and larvae found inside trees, but some species also feed on sap or fruit. Include fun behavior facts, such as woodpeckers using their long tongues to pull out ants and larvae from deep inside the wood. Woodpeckers are also expert communicators. Instead of singing like many other birds, they use drumming to communicate with potential mates or warn others to stay away from their territory. Show different woodpecker species unique drumming patterns. Woodpeckers are skilled nest builders, creating hollow cavities in trees to raise their young. These tree cavities not only serve as homes for woodpeckers but are often used by other species once abandoned. You could show how other birds, squirrels, or even bees take over these tree cavities. There are over 240 species of woodpeckers, each with their own unique characteristics. From the tiny downy woodpecker to the majestic pileated woodpecker, these birds come in all shapes and sizes. Woodpeckers play a crucial role in the health of ecosystems. By creating nesting sites and controlling insect populations, they help maintain balanced forest environments. Whether they're feeding, nesting, or drumming, woodpeckers are an essential and awe-inspiring part of nature. Next time you hear that tapping sound, you'll know it's nature's very own carpenter who is hard at work. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more amazing videos.
I never hit the subscribe button. So I'm going to walk you through some of this now, that things he talked about, some things he didn't mention, and sometimes things he did mention but didn't really give you the real significance of it. So here are two different woodpeckers. On the left is the North American pileated woodpecker, and on the right is the European green woodpecker. Now, he mentioned the zygodactyl feet, 2 toes front, 2 toes in back, and then the very stiff tail. Now you can see here that the tail is buttressed up against the trunk of the tree. Now, he also mentioned that the upper bill is a little bit longer than the lower one. That means the upper bill absorbs most of the impact. And what happens with the way things are organized, that shock gets simply redistributed. And so with the upper bill, it comes in here. Now, I mentioned there's spongy bone between the end of the bill and the front of the skull. And with that, so the shock goes up around the skull, comes back down through the spine, and through the tail, goes back into the tree. So it's not really absorbing all of that shock, it's redistributing it. And again, the zygodactyl feet, the 2 feet, and the tail act like a tripod, providing stability. He just talked about it in terms of going up and down, but it really serves its purpose when it's drumming into the tree. Now, he talked about the length of the tongue. That just looked a little weird. Okay. Yeah, this is not a red-headed, but a red-backed woodpecker, and just putting your finger underneath here will force the tongue to come out. Now, as you mentioned, though, there's what he called a hyoid apparatus, H-Y-O-I-D, hyoid, and that means that inside the tongue is a bone. And we have a hyoid bone, but it's way back in the throat, and you can't stick that out. It doesn't work that way. But here is, I'm going to show you now, the skull of a bird from a natural history museum, skull of a woodpecker. Now, so here's the tip of the tongue. You see how it comes back and then it splits. One half goes around each side of the skull, comes up around the back of the skull, and inserts here at the right nostril. So to extend its tongue, this attachment breaks and kind of cements itself here between the eyes, And then there's usually a big loop here, which I don't show you. That loop flattens out, and out comes the tongue about 3 times the length of the beak. Now, it's only the big woodpeckers, that, as he said, that can extend their tongue up to 4 inches. That's pretty big. Now, the problem here, and I've got one more thing to show you here. I don't know how these things got sequenced out of order, but it did. Technically, this is supposed to start here, and from the tip of the tongue, and you see how it loops into the throat, comes up along the back of the skull, over the top of the skull, between the eyes, and into that right nostril. And then on the right, you can see that, again, it loosens it. You can see here, sometimes the attachment goes all the way into the upper part of the bill. And so it releases that and comes here between the eyes, and then these big loops fold out and out shoots the tongue. Now, force. Woodpeckers sometimes slam into trees with 1,200 times gravity of force, greatly surpassing the less than 100 Gs that can cause concussions in humans. Now, if our brain were to experience 1,200 Gs, we'd be dead very quickly. A human will not survive that. Part of the reason he mentioned in that with the brain, it's tightly packed. There is a little bit of fluid between the skull and the brain, but not as much as humans have. We have lots of cerebral spinal fluid between the skull and the actual brain, and what happens with a concussion is that you get hit so hard that the brain will smash into the skull, and it basically, a concussion is a brain bruise. That can't happen with woodpeckers. Their brain is arranged in such a different way that can't happen. Now I'm going to, these are statements I found in one particular article about woodpeckers, and I want to see if you can detect any design language that they use. Marvel of evolutionary what? Orchestrating. Biomechanical symphony. Paints a vivid picture of an evolutionary masterpiece. At the heart of the woodpecker's pecking prowess lies a biomechanical rhythm orchestrated with unparalleled precision. The woodpecker's remarkable ability to absorb impact is not a stroke of luck, but a result of millions of years of evolutionary innovation. Evolution can innovate. And the last one here. The woodpecker stands as a living embodiment of nature's engineering brilliance. I'm sorry, nature's not an engineer, and it's not brilliant in the least. I hope you can see the just the folly of the language that has to be used to describe the woodpecker. They cannot avoid the design language. The beak. Well, as he said in the film, it's hard, it's not brittle, it won't break, it's not rubbery, it won't bend, it's like a chisel. Now the skull adaptations. Unlike the skulls of most birds, the woodpecker skull is fortified with specialized bones and spongy tissue, forming a natural shock absorber that dissipates the force of each peck. That's the important word there. Dissipates the force of each peck. This evolutionary adaptation safeguards the bird's brain from the potentially concussive effects of its rapid-fire drumming. And I have an audio recording coming up. You can hear different woodpeckers drumming speed. The synchronized dance of muscles, again, those neck muscles are extremely strong, as was mentioned. Tendons and skeletal structures ensures that each peck contributes to the bird's goal whether it be foraging for insects or communicating with other woodpeckers. And that's also something interesting. As was mentioned in the video, woodpeckers don't have any kind of vocalization. They can't sing. They don't make any kind of squawk or anything like that. They communicate through drumming. And as you said, they kind of utilize a hollow tree trunk so the sound reverberates more. But again, so the drumming is multifunctional for the woodpecker. Now again, the tongue, when I wrote my book, Natural Limits to Biological Change, it was published in 1984, all I focused on was the length of the tongue. And part of the problem here is that the woodpecker would have to do two things at the same time evolutionarily. When evolution has to do two things simultaneously, it doesn't do that very well. First, it would have to evolve a longer tongue, and then second, it would also have to evolve a retraction mechanism to take it back inside. If you just evolve a longer tongue, when it tries to peck in the wood, it'll cut the tongue off, and that's not a help. It's a disadvantageous. If you have a retraction mechanism, but the tongue isn't very long, well, that's useless. Nature won't select a retraction system if it's not needed. And the woodpecker tail, I described that a bit already. He did in the film as well, long and stiff and pointed. So again, the 2 feet and the tail form a tripod. The neck muscles. The dynamic interplay between powerful neck muscles and a flexible cervical structure. That means the spinal cord. Flexible spinal cord allows woodpeckers to achieve rapid and controlled pecking motions. This adaptability is a stark contrast to some other bird species that may lack the agility required for such percussive feats. No other birds but woodpeckers can do this. They don't have any of the equipment. And so what kind of bird woodpeckers actually evolved from, we have no idea. All the different orders of modern birds show up almost all at once in the fossil record.
Yeah, so we have chickens.
Uh-huh.
Chickens do not push at all.
Yeah.
They will not push on anything. Like we have a dog door, they don't even try to go through it. They cannot go through anything that they have to push.
Yeah, well, woodpeckers manage that. Now, one thing he also mentioned was this nictitating membrane. You can see it here on the eye of an eagle. It's very, as he said, it's translucent. Okay, so the woodpecker boasts a special adaptation in the form of a nictitating membrane, often referred to as the third eyelid. So you have an eyelid above, eyelid below, and then the one beneath that. This translucent protective veil serves as a shield, momentarily covering the eye just before impact. The split-second defense mechanism acts as a safeguard, preventing debris and potential harm from reaching the eye during the intense drilling activities. Now here's something the video didn't mention. It showed you on the video, but he didn't talk about it. Complementing the nictitating membrane is the woodpecker's rapid blink reflex, an astonishingly swift response that further shields the eyes. The ability to blink at an accelerated pace. So this is a very rapid blink, okay? So it's rapid blink reflex. An astonishingly swift response that further shields the eyes. The ability to blink at an accelerated pace, almost like a protective reflex, adds an extra layer of defense against the perils of rapid pecking. This is what prevents the eye from popping out, not the nictitating membrane. The eyelids actually have to do that. It's a very, very rapid blink. Woodpeckers use their bills to excavate holes for raising young, forage for insects ensconced in dead limbs, and drum to establish territory. To produce the loudest drums, they ram their bills at rapid speeds, 25 times per second. Think you can move your head 25 times per second? I don't recommend it. Into trees and even utility poles. Excavating nests happens more slowly, but requires more force. As I said earlier, woodpeckers sometimes slam into trees with 1,200 Gs of force, greatly surpassing what can be endured by humans. Even though it seems like the birds could be injuring their brains, the results reveal that the woodpeckers perform under a safety threshold. Birds would need either to drill twice as fast or hit a much stiffer surface like metal on a utility pole to incur any injury. If this theory gains further support, then it could turn out that there is one simple explanation for how woodpeckers avoid injury. Physics. This is the physics of how the skull is constructed, the physics about how the brain is inserted into the skull, the physics of the beak and chisel, the physics of the extending tongue, the physics of the zygdactyl feet and the stiff tail feathers, nictitating membrane. It's all physics. But they don't know anything about physics. Now, this is the audio I said I would play for you. So,
this is BirdNote. Like a jazz player beating out a drum roll, a woodpecker uses its bill to rap out a brisk series of notes. Early spring resounds with the percussive hammering of woodpeckers. Their rhythmic drumming works like many birds' songs. It broadcasts to other woodpeckers over a long distance a clear assertion of territorial and mating rights. We also hear woodpeckers knocking on wood when they're carving holes in trees to create nest cavities or extract insect prey. But these whacks are more methodical. Woodpeckers offer a fascinating cast of drummers. A hefty pileated woodpecker lets go a resounding tattoo against a hollow trunk. A yellow-bellied sapsucker seems to be signaling in Morse code as it snaps its bill against a stub of dead branch. And the little downy woodpecker's drum roll seems rather modest, rather short, and not too fast. For any woodpecker, it's all about proclaiming a sound signal as far and as loud as possible. And as it searches for the most resonant drum, it might just find that your metal rain gutter makes the best music. For BirdNote, I'm Michael Stein.
So woodpeckers will just hunt on the tree. They'll peck here and there until they hear a somewhat hollow sound. So that's where they know where an insect trail or tunnel is inside the wood, and that's where they would drill their hole. So gutters sound very hollow. So it keeps banging away, think it's going to uncover an insect tunnel. Okay, so the summary here quickly is you have the beak, the skull, the tongue, the zygodactyl feet, tail, neck muscles, nictitating membrane, brain, drumming behavior. Okay. Now we're going to come across a creature, I'm sure Daniel's heard of it, but nobody else has any idea what this is. It's called the mantis shrimp. Now, first of all, it's neither a mantis or a shrimp. It's from an arthropod family called stomatopods, but that apparently didn't have a nice ring to it. One of them, which is the club variety, holds up its clubs that looks like a praying mantis, so hence mantis shrimp. They look somewhat like a shrimp, and the club variety has an appearance like a praying mantis. But there's two types of mantis shrimp. First is the spearer type, seen on here on the left side. And you can see its claws, fold in like this, and they will use those to push out and spear a fish. Well, I'll have a video of that a little bit later. The other type is the club type. And you can't see it all that great here, but with a little help. These are the clubs here. Here's the bottom end of it, and here's the top of it, and so here's the top of the other one. Now notice how technically it's already in a cocked shape, ready to be spring released. Now, as I said, the spearing mantis shrimp, it's kind of its spearers do not come out as fast as the clubs do, but it's fast enough that they will use those to just grab onto a fish and pull it back down underneath the sand with it. Now the club mantis shrimp. Some of this is going to be what she's going to describe, and how she describes it is going to be absolutely amazing.
And so here you'll see the appendage rotate forward and smash the limb off of this crab. There it is. So this is a high-speed video, slowed down so you can actually see the movement, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to see it. So again, this is one of the fastest movements in the animal kingdom. It generates forces that are thousands of times the body weight of the animal. The accelerations are comparable to a .22 caliber bullet. And I like to give this analogy. If a mantis shrimp were human size, and if it were to throw a baseball with the same kinematics that you see there, it would actually throw that baseball into orbit around the Earth. So an insanely powerful, impressive movement. So now let's look at this smash in real time. Here you see the animal smash this snail, and it kind of flies across the tank a little bit there. But let's slow this down again, because there's something in here that you can't see unless we slow it down. So in this video, again, you'll see the hammer rotate forward and smash this snail. Upon impact, you'll see a flash of light, and then a little bit later, you'll see a second flash of light. And I'll tell you what that is in a second. Okay, so the appendage rotates forward, smash it, there's that flash of light, and then there's another flash of light that happens. It's going to happen right around there, right there. Okay, so that is called cavitation. Basically, the appendage is moving so fast through water that it creates an area of low pressure that then forms an air bubble. When that air bubble implodes, it releases energy in the form of light and heat that's comparable to the sun. So even that is generating a really impressive set of forces. And what I find to be particularly incredible is that the snail does not explode upon impact. In fact, it can take up to 80 strikes for a mantis shrimp to open a snail. So that can show you the selection pressure of these snails on this movement. Because again, it's creating incredibly impressive forces, and yet the snail is pretty much intact.
When she uses the phrase selective forces, that's talking about natural selection. And obviously the evolution would say that there's great selective pressure on the snail to, quote unquote, evolve a thicker shell or some other way to actually make it that it might be able to resist the punch of the club mantis shrimp. Now, it says here, now notice it said the linear acceleration, 65,000, 104,000 meters per second squared. That's just the acceleration. The linear velocity is 14 to 23 meters per second. Meters per second. That's really fast. You think about a human Olympic sprinter, he will travel 100 meters in about 10 seconds. That's slower than the mantis shrimp strike. Also, it says here it's filmed at 5,000 feet per second, but it was played at 15 feet per second. So they really slowed it. It had a high-speed camera and then really slowed it down.
Here you'll see.
Now, vision, also quite interesting. Now, on the left is the range of human color vision. We have 3 color receptors, blue, green, and red. And the mixing of those is how we get all the different colors we see. The mantis shrimp has as many as 12 color receptors, from infrared to ultraviolet. And what this video, next video, is going to show you is they also can detect polarized light.
The mantis shrimp is a true heavy hitter. Take this one. She's about to devour this snail, but she's got to crack it open first. So she carefully positions it. Then, bam! She punches it with the speed of a .22 caliber bullet. It's the fastest attack in the animal kingdom. That's one kind of mantis shrimp, known as a smasher. Here's the other. This one's called a spearer. Buried up to his eyeballs, he watches and waits. Then, springs into action, impaling his prey on a serrated blade with blinding speed and dragging it beneath the sand. What makes these two so amazing isn't just their speed, it's their eyes. See those black spots? They're like our pupils, where the light enters the eye. We humans have one in each eye. Each sends an image to the brain, and voila, depth perception. The mantis shrimp has 6 of them. Our vision, binocular. His vision, hexnocular. For when accuracy counts. As for color, we've got 3 receptors, red, green, blue. The shrimp has 12, another world record. But there's even more to this incredible eye, and it has to do with something called polarized light. Sunlight is messy. It's a jumble of wavelengths moving in all directions at once. But some surfaces, say the scale of a fish or a pair of polarized sunglasses, have a way of changing the light, organizing it so it moves in a single plane. We humans can't really tell this is happening, but the mantis shrimp can make out where in the ocean light is being polarized and where it isn't. Some mantis shrimp take this one step further and produce their own special kind of polarization, and they use it as a secret code. See, mantis shrimp are incredibly territorial. They will defend a burrow to the death. But some, like our smasher, have a way of avoiding the fight. When he looks into a burrow, he can tell that another mantis shrimp has already claimed it by the way light is hitting its body. That's the secret code. Here's how it works. Remember when I said that polarized surfaces organize light into a plane? Well, these surfaces on the mantis shrimp make the beams of light circular, spinning through space like a helix. As far as we know, only other mantis shrimp can detect this with their eyes. You can see it here because we put a polarizer on the camera. So these shrimp have taught us a thing or two. By reverse engineering the mantis shrimp's eye into a camera, a group of scientists have begun to use polarized light to diagnose injuries and disease. This scanner measures polarization in red. See how this mouse tissue goes red when it stretches? Well, injuries to our tendons do the same under the scanner. So do some cancers. This endoscopy footage reveals cancerous cells hiding in plain sight by the way they react to polarized light. It just goes to show how we see the world differently when we look at it through another set of eyes. Hi, it's Amy. I wish I could say that no snails were harmed in the making of this video, but a shrimp's gotta eat, and so do we. So subscribe. See you next time.
Yeah, I wish you could say that no snails were harmed in the making.
There's something on there, but very little. Is it another shrimp? It is. No way. No way. Ah! Ow! That really hurt. Wow. That thing just grabbed onto me and smashed my foot. Oh, dude, he cut through my freaking... Wow. He just punched through my brand new booties. Wow. Check this out. Oh, man. Dude, that is crazy. So supposedly, mantis shrimp has the most powerful punch in all of the animal kingdom. And I just felt it. This dude grabbed a hold of my booty and did whatever they do. Put a hole in this booty that is literally the second time I've ever used it. They're brand new. And then a hole into my foot. Yeah. That's proof right there of the power. The power of the freaking mantis shrimp. Oh my gosh. They were not joking. Holy crap. You're crazy, dude. You are crazy. Wow. What the hell? That did not feel good at all.
He knew what it was when he brought it out of the water. He knew it was a mantis shrimp. But as I said, cutting it off the line was the mistake, because then it was loose in the boat and it just rammed right into his foot. So now, last one, butterflies. Now, why would the mantis shrimp need 12 color receptors? Why does it need to register ultraviolet light? Yeah, we see a reason for being able to detect circular polarized light, but how was that ever needed in the first place? What kind of selective pressure is able to generate that kind of receptor in the eye of the mantis shrimp? I never see anybody try to answer those questions. Okay? So now we're going to talk about the butterfly. We're going to go from egg to caterpillar to the butterfly. We're going to primarily focus on the monarch butterfly, but this first video, talking about egg laying, we'll be talking about several different kinds of butterflies.
For almost every butterfly, it is a cycle that begins, often hidden from the eyes of the world. Depending upon its species, a female butterfly can lay hundreds of eggs during her brief lifetime. Each initiates an extraordinary process of growth and transformation.
The eggs are remarkable in themselves. They have species-specific architectures, some of which are just astonishing. For instance, if you look at a monarch egg, it has a beautiful symmetrical structure. It looks like a little miniature dome or cathedral.
Ranging in size from a pinhead to the width of a child's fingernail, each egg is attached to a plant by an adhesive fluid secreted by the butterfly. They are lined with a coating of wax that helps keep them moist and viable. Each egg is deposited on a specific species of plant called a host. These host plants are the only source of food a butterfly's offspring will eat, so accurate identification of their leaves and branches is crucial, and the females are well equipped for the task.
the perception that they have of the odor of those plants is just overwhelming. So they can find those plants for miles, and then once it gets near its host plant, it can tell that the odor is getting stronger and stronger. Then it begins to focus on leaf shape. Instinctively, it knows what leaf shape its host plant has. And it begins to taste. And it tastes with its feet, with its forelegs. They drum the leaves, they scratch the leaves. And then they use their proboscis to taste the scratch. They also smell with their antennae. So they've got the legs, they've got their proboscis, they've got their antennae. They have all these mechanisms to make sure that it's the right plant. If it's the wrong plant, their caterpillars are going to die. Butterflies just don't make mistakes. I mean, it's just amazing. It's one of the greatest wonders of nature to watch how this female can do all of this from such great distances.
So again, how do you evolve a capacity like that? As you said, each species of butterfly has its own species of plant that it lays its eggs on. First, it can smell it just in the area, and then it has to land on a leaf. It recognizes the shape of the leaf of its host plant, and then it begins scratching it so it can taste. So it can taste the actual leaf to make sure this is the right one. As you said, also, if the butterfly deposits its eggs on the wrong plant, the caterpillars will die. They have to have the exact right plant. Who knows what plant the monarch butterflies use?
Milkweed.
Milkweed. Yes, they use milkweed. So, back to monarchs. Well, here you see the life cycle. You see on the upper left the egg, then you see the caterpillar, then you see the chrysalis, and then the adult butterfly. And this just gives you a little closer up view of the caterpillar. Now, caterpillars are unique organisms. They're essentially an eating machine. It's all they do is eat. They have no reproductive organs. The caterpillar has no means by which to reproduce. The butterfly does. So the chrysalis becomes absolutely essential. But there's a very major evolutionary roadblock in this process. So here's the chrysalis. And now we're going to look at a video that talks a little bit about what goes on inside the chrysalis.
A butterfly chrysalis connects two fundamentally different ways of living. It is both a bridge and a workshop, where one type of organism is transformed into another. The magnitude of this transformation has been compared to a Model T Ford that suddenly encases itself within a garage. Inside, most of the car breaks down into fragments of metal, rubber, and glass. These pieces then reorganize themselves into components more complex than any that previously existed in the Model T. After several days, the garage door bursts open and a radically different mode of transportation lifts off into the sky.
Now, an analogy like that is pure whimsy. But even if it were somehow possible, I don't think turning a car into a helicopter would be nearly as impressive as the actual transformation that takes place inside a chrysalis.
From the moment the chrysalis is formed, caterpillar tissues are destroyed and then recycled to help build wings, compound eyes, reproductive organs, and navigational systems of stunning beauty and efficiency. Yet despite the importance of cell death in the chrysalis, the origin of the process defies the basic logic of natural selection.
One of the fundamental requirements of natural selection is reproduction. You've got to be able to make copies of yourself, in particular of your genes. You've got to be able to pass them on. But a chrysalis, unless it represents a bridge to something yet to come, is really a casket. If you're a caterpillar, you're entering your own grave. Turning most of your body into a molecular soup would be suicide.
A caterpillar, unless it makes it through to the adult, is no good because it can't reproduce. You're not going to have offspring, and so you're a dead-end street evolutionarily. So it wouldn't be any benefit at all to kill yourself unless you've got a hidden plan up your sleeve. You know, like, okay, I know I can go ahead and commit suicide because there's a new me waiting to happen.
The caterpillar is not going to enter the chrysalis without simultaneously knowing, I've got a plan for getting out of this. I'm heading towards the adult butterfly. I'm going to reconstitute these tissues in the adult form, emerge, and go on my way. But that's not how natural selection operates. It can't look into the future and somehow anticipate what an evolving organism is going to need in a week or a month or 1,000 years from now. So if the first caterpillars were evolving into existence, without foresight, it's highly unlikely natural selection would retain a destructive process like cell death.
Now, you mentioned very briefly navigational abilities of essentially the monarch butterfly. Basically, monarchs are tropical butterflies. Now, they're here in North America only during the summer. And when summer starts turning to fall, they start leaving and start flying south to a place in Mexico. It's about 70, 80 miles, I think, northeast from Mexico City, 10,000 feet in elevation. These series of mountains have a particular type of forest, and they also have a magnetic anomaly that the monarch is able to recognize. One unique thing that the monarchs have in their wings is a magnetic chemical called magnetite. And somehow the magnetite interacting with the Earth's magnetic field helps guide them to this forest up in these mountains. So here you see North America. So you can have on the eastern side of the Rockies, you have monarchs coming down to this spot here, and they come from Canada, they come from the Midwest, they come from Northeast. Now some end up here in Florida, but I don't know much about that. The ones west of the Rockies, however, only go to California. They don't go much down into Mexico. So the question then becomes, we've known for a long time that they went south, but we had no idea where they were going. And it wasn't until 1975, a bare 50 years ago, that they finally discovered where they were going.
Until late in the 20th century, the only people to ever observe the butterfly's arrival in Mexico were the farmers and miners who lived and worked in these volcanic mountains. Then, on January 2nd, 1975, in a forest 70 miles west of Mexico City, a spectacular discovery opened the door for the rest of the world. Millions of monarch butterflies had gathered in a forest of oyamel firs 10,000 feet above sea level. Frederick Urquhart, a Canadian biologist who devoted his career to the search for this colony, described it as a glorious, incredible place where butterflies swirl through the air like autumn leaves, shimmering against the mountain sky and drifting across our vision in a blizzard of orange and black. Science now glimpsed the true magnitude of the eastern monarch's migration.
One of the really remarkable things about this migration is that all of these individuals have never made the trip before. It was their grandparents or great-grandparents 2, 3, 4 generations ago. They have no leader who has made the trip before, unlike whooping cranes or sandhill cranes. They don't have an older, experienced adult to take the lead and show them where to go, where to stop at night. But in the end, it ends up on the very same trees, same area, same slope of the mountain that its parents and grandparents left from the previous year.
You can now go down to Mexico City and you can go on a tour that will take you to some of these forests. And people who have done that simply describe that it brings them to tears. The beauty is so overwhelming, and there's just, when he talks about billions of monarch butterflies, your mind cannot wrap yourself around that. Even if you're seeing it, you still can't understand what you're truly seeing. And so the migration is amazing. One other thing about this is that the butterfly that starts the migration from the north, usually butterflies will live maybe 2 to 4 weeks at the most. And so all their eggs are laid in that period of time. But those monarchs that hatch in early fall, they're the ones who will make the trip to Mexico. They will spend the winter in Mexico, and they are the same ones that will migrate back north. They're called the Methuselah generation. They will live for up to 9 months, as opposed to 2 to 4 weeks. Again, we're not sure what the genetic combination is to allow just that one generation, what signals it. As they're flying south, they're keeping track of the sun as well as the Earth's magnetic field to guide them along their way. There have even been some offshore oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico that have had monarchs spend the night hanging out off one of their wires or pipes or something. Every once in a while, every couple of years, I have a monarch or two that will spend the night in one of our backyard trees. But you have to be intentional about looking out for them. They will start to show up in October. So the ones in Canada will start leaving in late September, and as you get further south, they leave a little bit later and later and later.
Why would they call that the Methuselah generation?
Well, because I said it outlives. Ordinarily, the adult lives for 2 to 4 weeks. This one lasts for 9 months.
My question is, where does the word Methuselah come from?
Well, who knows? Yeah. What?
The longest living person.
Yeah. They know.
Just one.
Just want to make sure. What chapter of Genesis do you find that in? Chapter 10. 11 to the Tower of Babel. So here we have the 3 creatures. Here are woodpeckers of North America. Some of those were shown in the video, some not so much. You see the mantis shrimp, and then the monarch caterpillar and butterfly. Basically, my life verse here is Romans 1:18-20. It says, "The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people and who suppress the truth by their wickedness." What truth are they suppressing? Since what may be known about God is plain to them, so whatever this is, it's plain, because what God has made it plain. He's made it plain. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that people are without excuse. How can you look at the amazing adaptations of the woodpecker and not be impressed of God's creative intelligence? How can you not observe the mantis shrimp and all the different colors of light, the polarized light, the club, the spear, not be impressed by God's creativeness? And then also with the monarch, its ability to, literally becomes a molecular soup in the chrysalis. A few cells remain that are called imaginal cells, and those are the cells that take the soup and reconstruct it into the butterfly. And remember, only the butterfly can reproduce. So as I pointed out, once the caterpillar enters the chrysalis, now it says it better know, but you can't really know, but there has to be some level of understanding that what will come out of the chrysalis will be able to reproduce, because I can't. Okay? So, what you think? Took a whole hour to get through that. I had fun. Did you have fun?
Yes, it was.
When you weren't falling asleep? Okay.